Welcome to Rome Dispatch. And this is the 6th day of the sede vacante, the vacancy of St. Peter. And also, I wish to let you know that this is the last day for Rome Dispatch. I've enjoyed being with you enormously all of these days, having had wonderful guests and being able to bring you all the special coverage of this very, very historic event. But you know what? You can still follow me. You know I have a blog at Jones Rome, my EWTN blog. And you can also follow me on Vatican Insider, my weekend radio show with EWTN. So now the first order of business today, as it is every day, is to introduce our special guest today. And we have with us on the set Monsignor Paul Tighe. He's the Secretary of the Pontifical Council for Social Communications, and an especially weighty job in these days. But Monsignor, just for a second, give our viewers some of your background before coming to the Vatican, and what year was that?
Yeah, I'm a priest from the Diocese of Dublin in Ireland. I came to the Vatican in 2007 and began working at the Pontifical Council for Social Communications. For the 2 or 3 years before that, I had worked at the Diocesan Communications Office in Dublin, working with Archbishop Dermot Martin.
A very good friend of mine, I might say, for many, many years, when he also worked here in the Roman Curia. And this is your first conclave then? You were not here.
This is my first time living through a conclave in Rome. Yes, I've lived through the last one in Dublin. We were obviously involved in helping with local media to some extent.
Oh, sure.
But this has been kind of an extraordinary event to live through from the point of view of our office.
But in the years you've been here, the other big event, of course, that you did help cover in your entire office here was the beatification in 2011 of John Paul.
Certainly the beatification was the biggest number we've been dealing with in terms of journalists and media interest in general, but this one is obviously going way beyond those numbers, and it's just been extraordinarily busy time for us. I'm really appreciative of all the work my staff are doing. They're doing extraordinary work, be it accrediting journalists or be it doing the social media outreach.
Exactly. The technical know-how, the personal know-how, the PR, they're representing their office, just when they greet the journalists who have come in to pick up their accreditation. Now, at the top, lest I forget at some point, I wonder if you could clear up one thing. Some people have asked us about the papal Twitter account. We know that was turned off on February 28th, but let us know, is it going to be there in the future?
No, the papal Twitter account at Pontifex was created for the use exclusively of the Pope. So that account is now inactive during these days of inactivity. It's sede vacante, we're without a Pope, so therefore the account remains inactive or dormant. However, the account is live and there and will be available for the use by the new Pope if he chooses to do so.
And I do remember a lot of people saying, and in their early days here, some of the cardinals were saying that it might be pretty important for a new Holy Father to have this somewhat of a command of this various social media.
Yeah, I think a number of the cardinals have direct experience of working with social media, but I think any of them who have been involved, particularly pastorally, probably through their diocese, are working with new media, be it Facebook, be it using of Twitter in a diocesan context. And I think the social media agenda is there very much if people are wondering how in this new world, when people have found different ways of communicating, how can we effectively talk about the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ? How can we make that message real and relevant for young people who are spending an increasing part of their time and of their life in social media?
It's a whole new generation as far as the media goes. When you look at John Paul's election, okay, the last conclave was 2005, but the one before that was 1978. I'm not even sure we had cell phones in 1978.
Well, we didn't have in Ireland. Maybe you had them in
no,
other
I'm
parts
not
of the
sure
world.
there were too many cell phones. If so, they were huge, big things. But so you get today to where we walk around with iPads, and I think it was at your very own iPad that the Holy Father sent his first Twitter from in the
Well, when they launched the official
hall.
account in the audience hall, he used this iPad, so it's become something of a relic now, or will in the long term become, but it's something that was a little pleasure just to know that the iPad had been used for that. But no, I mean, I think for all the people who are thinking about it, I think one of the themes is always people are saying evangelization is for all of us a major theme. how are we going to bring the gospel to young people, and increasingly it's how do we engage with new media to do that.
Exactly.
Twitter is one example. The Pope went on there. I think it's a great example. It's an 85-year-old man going on to something that will be seen as kind of relatively cutting edge technical communications platform, but he was there, I think, to encourage other church members to be present. It's a way of supporting them.
And you know, the interesting thing is you also have to be careful, the church has to be careful, not to lose the older people who don't feel comfortable. You have grandparents probably out there who are very good with the social media. There might be other grandparents who aren't. So you still have to evangelize with the older methods, obviously, of evangelization.
Yeah, I think it's certainly in terms of the outreach of the church, we're not simply going to move to a digital platform and inadvertently leave people behind.
Exactly.
So there's great work still being done by TV, by radio, and by newspapers, diocesan newspapers, by smaller even parish information leaflets. But I think gradually all of that is being integrated. The same content that you use on your newspaper can also be content for a good web platform, which can in turn be the basis for an app.
Right.
Or for can be tweeted by somebody else. So really what we're interested in is how the social media can help us to spread the content, and can spread the good news of the gospel.
Right.
And it's about also, it's different to the past. In the past we could speak, people listened.
Right.
We had the microphone and they sat and listened. Now people are much more actively engaged. So we try and give them messages that they can use and share with their friends, with their followers. So we get that gradual spread of the good news.
And speaking of sharing news, we do have some videos from a news conference today, the press briefing. There were 113 cardinal electors, 2 more expected between this afternoon and tomorrow, so we'll be at the full complement of 115 cardinal electors. There were a total of 153 cardinals at the congregation this morning. This afternoon there will be no congregation but a liturgy. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the thing everybody was expecting to hear was not announced today, and that is to say the date of the conclave was not announced. But there were some questions. Our Father Lombardi, who is at the congregations and takes the same oath as the cardinals do, he gave us an overview, and Father Tom Rosica is going to translate the overview on some of the themes that the cardinals have spoken of in their interventions.
This morning there were 18 interventions made. This brings to a total 51 interventions over the past 3 days. Among the themes that were touched this morning, the Church in the world, new evangelization, the Holy See, dicasteries, relations with bishops, and what's beginning to emerge is a profile of the next Pope. What are the expectations and hopes for the next Pope?
That is very, very fascinating footage, the ideas of what the eminences are discussing. And we now have even really interesting footage of the work that was started yesterday in the Sistine Chapel. Yes. So some of we'll see scaffolding, we'll see various things. There was no audio with this, so I will be talking over this and explaining the work that they are doing. And I think we have that to roll now. In the very beginning, the first video takes place in the Pauline Chapel, which is the chapel where the cardinal electors gather on the first day of the conclave, and then they formally process down a hall known as the Sala Aurum and a hall known as the Sala Regia. And then they move from there, we're still in the Pauline Chapel, they will move through the Sala Regia into the Sistine Chapel. And this was actually restored not too long ago. You have Peter's death, a very, very beautiful fresco on one of the side walls. But it's a very amazing chapel used for only special occasions. Now we are in the Sala Regia, and on our way you can see some of the materials piled against the wall there. And then we're going to enter the Sistine Chapel from the Regia Hall, the Sala Regia. And what that gentleman has holding going into the chapel, they put down a protective coating on the floor. This is actually very pliable. It is not wood, but it's a very pliable element that they put on the floor of the Sistine Chapel to protect the floor where they are going to build the tables at which the cardinals will sit on either side, with the cardinals who will be counting the ballots and so forth sitting just in front of the Last Judgment at the altar space there. And the workers come from an office in the Vatican. Here you can see some of the materials they will be using for the scaffolding, which will go over the floor and be the base upon which, again, the chairs, the tables where the cardinals will sit will be above that new floor. And contrary to reports that had come out, and I was one quoting the reports, the flooring will only be used to protect the current marble floor. And here's a gentleman who's is sewing the material that will go on top of the tables where the cardinals will be seated, and perhaps at some places along the walls. And anyway, to protect the secrecy of the conclave, you're going to have jamming devices for cell phones, and there will be no internet, etc. There's going to be something placed up in the ceiling area. Now we are looking at 2 stoves were taken out of huge containers. One stove, this is the new one, and another box will show the older stove. They were taken out of containers, and these will be used, one to burn the ballots, and then the other, actually, because the ballots won't have enough smoke to go up the chimney and let the public know, yes or no, we have a pope, then the other one serves, along with some chemicals, to create the white or the black smoke. And they have on top of them also the dates. They've inscribed the dates on which they've been used. Both of those were used in 2005. So very interesting video there. And are you going to get a chance? I know they're going to bring a group of the journalists in to see the Sistine Chapel. Are you going to get a chance yourself to?
I don't think so, but now you've planted an idea. Maybe I should try and get myself in there.
You should try and go.
The historic moment would be a great opportunity, yeah.
Well, you know, just a second ago and then earlier we were talking about the 3 different big events. This conclave, the one of 2008, and then the one of 2005, and then John Paul's beatification. Do you have any figures on kind of where we've come between 2005, 11, and 13?
Yeah, the figures
on the media.
And these are kind of provisional figures that are officed this morning. As of this morning, for this event, we've already accredited over 5,000 media operators. That's everything from print journalists to TV cameramen to crews to bloggers. There's the whole range there, but over 5,000. The beatification of John Paul II, we had over 1,200, so we're already gone 4 times over that. Amazing. And then the figures I was given for the 2005 conclave, Easter to the conclave, over 4,000. So there's an increase there as well.
That is amazing, and I'm guessing that a great deal of that increase is due to the way the information has gotten out, and different people. Somebody might be a blogger or specialize in a social media. They're not the print journalist or the photographer or television. So there's a whole new world of people who would ask for credentials.
Yeah, there's a whole new world of people who are coming to cover the events. One of the things that we're doing, obviously, with bloggers, we have to be sure that they have a decent following, that they're a mainstream blogger, let us say, because otherwise it could be a nice way for anyone to assure themselves a good seat at the events.
Right.
But no, we're judging those with a kind of discretion and looking, and we kind of know who the people are, and we want to encourage them as well, because one of the things, we have the mainstream media, we have the smaller media operations, but there is a huge attractiveness around this event. We had what our staff were describing as a tsunami last week.
Sure.
As the big numbers of people were coming in for the 28th. Slowed down a little bit this week, and we're expecting now towards the end of this week, early next week, we'll have the big numbers again.
Oh, sure, and once I think plane reservations are going to be made when they say the conclave will begin on XYZ day. And I've noticed also you've set up, there has been something set up in the atrium of the Paul VI audience hall for the media.
Yeah, we've tried to provide the media in the meantime with workstations.
Sure.
So in a couple of locations, one is underneath the Synod Hall, another is down near our offices on the Via della Conciliazione. We've set up kind of good workstations with a lot of Wi-Fi and a lot of broadband available for people so that they can do their work and they have a base from which to work. Some of the difficulties at the moment if our journalists are here, and some days there's not an awful lot happening. So last week we would have done little trips for them to see the Vatican Gardens, to see Castel Gandolfo.
Oh, that was wonderful.
So that was to give people a kind of a flavour for where they are and what's happening. And as you say, some people will be brought in to see the Sistine Chapel once it has been established and
exactly.
It's ready. Yeah.
And some people, relative to the Sistine Chapel, the protection of the Pope, the closing of the doors, as we saw last week at Castel Gandolfo, we've got a little video that we have for today on the Swiss Guards. I think this is going to be a very interesting presentation.
The two Swiss Guards closed the door at the Apostolic Palace in Castel Gandolfo, and they got back to the Vatican City because the Holy Father finished his ministry. We are continue to serve to the Holy See for the Cardinals Colleague, and we are continue also to survey the Pope's Palace and the main entrance to the Vatican City. Personally, I was at San Damaso Square to have the last salute, the last blessing of the Holy Father. We were there with a big group of more than 50 Swiss Guards in uniform, and it was very nice to see him leaving the Apostolic Palace. Now, behind me you can see the training of the new recruits. We are having 13 new recruits. And I can assure you, for them also, for us, it's a historic, very historic event what we are living. And now, after 7 years, stopping, we served the Holy Father. It was not easy at all for us. The Swiss Guard was founded 1506 by Pope Julius II. The other very important date for us is the 6th of May 1527, because there was a big battle on St. Peter's Square, and many of the Swiss soldiers died, and just some Swiss Guards saved Pope Clement VII through the wall connecting the Pope's Palace and Castel Sant'Angelo. Also to the next Pope, we swear also to protect him with all our means.
That I've always found that impressive in all the years that I've been here, these young men that come in. I hope too many don't have to be outside today. In case I didn't mention it earlier, perhaps you can see behind us on this wonderfully constructed window. It is a cold, rainy, windy day here in Rome, but you said you feel right at home.
Well, I said I feel at home. I'm Irish. This is our kind of weather.
Exactly.
No difficulties with that, yes.
Rome is known as sunny Rome, but in just the few minutes we have left, Monsignor Tai, I just want to talk about some of the other highlights of things that your office does. News.va is absolutely incredible, and from that was born the Pope app. So tell us about those.
Well, News.va was created because in the Vatican you have various news outlets. You have the newspaper, the Osservatore Romano, you have the Vatican Radio, you have CTV, you have the press office producing a bulletin every day, you have the Fides, the missionary agency. And what we felt was we should bring all that content together and aggregate it on one page. And News.va was born out of the idea of making the Vatican's news content more accessible to people throughout the world. So it's used by journalists and it's used by individuals, and individuals who then might want to share that news coming from Rome with their friends.
And in different languages.
In different languages. So what we've done is we've built the platform. It's available in 5 languages. We have it in French, English, Italian, German, Spanish, and sorry, not German, Portuguese. And we have it in the 5 languages. It's all the material there is easily shared. We use a lot of images. We use a lot of video. because one of the things with new media, it's less about the text and it's more about images and sound. And particularly on events like we're having at the moment, it's all about the colour, it's about the sound, it's about the theatre, even the Swiss Guards in themselves, the colour of their uniforms. So what we're seeing is that in new media, using particularly sound and images, we built this platform that gives all the hard news and the basic news coming out of the Vatican, but presents it in ways that we think are more attractive, and then presents it in ways that are easy for people to tweet, easy for people to share it on Facebook, so that our image, we say, is we're developing the news and giving it to people precisely so they can share it, so that rather than we just broadcasting and everybody just picking it up as individuals, it's made to be shared and it's made to go around. And out of that, we developed an app, and the idea of the app is it takes some
fabulous.
of the... Thank you. We're pleased with it. It's born a little prematurely. We were working on it, and then with these events we've had to deliver it maybe a little bit ahead of time. But the key thing with that is it will allow people to stream and to watch all the events live on their phones. So far we have it for iPhone and we have it for Android. There are problems there, and I'd invite people to let us know the problems and we'll fix them as we're going along.
You can solve them. So that's going to be very, very important in the coming days, and I know you're working very hard on doing streaming for the upcoming, certainly the conclave and the white smoke or black or whatever it may be.
We're recognizing that in addition to making the images available to the global media, we're also making it available on streaming, so somebody's at work can watch it on their computer, somebody's away and wants to watch it on their phone, just to ensure that people have that accessibility to the big events that are happening.
It's amazing, and just for the news.va, just go right there, and you're going to be astonished. Pick your language and go right there. You'll be astonished at the quantities.
And I should say the app is free.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's because we're really in the business of making information available to people, and therefore the idea of charging would be counterproductive.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how it happens every day, but it does happen like this on Rome Dispatch, that the time totally runs out before, and we feel like we've just begun. So I want to thank you, Monsignor Paul Tagwe, Secretary at the Council for Social Communications, and for the wonderful work you're doing and for sharing that with us. And I just really want to reiterate to my listeners that, and our viewers, because that even though today is the last edition of Rome Dispatch, stay with me on my blog, Jones Rome. And this weekend I do have an interview on Vatican Insider with Cardinal Francis George of Chicago. So right now I think we have Doug Keck in studio. And did you have any comments or questions, Doug, for this end of the show?
Sure, Joan, that's terrific. Thank Monsignor Paul Tagwe so much, and all the help from Archbishop Celli and his office at Social Communications. It's really terrific. Thank you so much. And I want to remind everybody that Joan's not going away just because the Dispatch show may not be on every day. Joan will be intrinsically involved in all of our coverage. Joan, I did have a question for you. There's an event that was added for today that's coming up in about a half an hour or so, Vespers in St. Peter's. Can you give us some info and update on that event?
Right. Yes, that will be at 5 o'clock. The Cardinals had decided not to have a congregation this afternoon, but to have a prayer for the church and really for themselves. And Cardinal Angelo Comastri, the Archpriest of St. Peter's Basilica, will preside at the event. You will have Vespers. They're going to say the glorious mysteries of the Rosary. And so we will be transmitting that live. And what's very important to me anyway, because it's an altar I love in St. Peter's Basilica, this is taking place at the altar of the chair. The symbolism is huge. This is the chair of Peter, the altar of the cathedra. Cathedra meaning chair, see, or seat. So the fact that these cardinals are meeting and praying around the altar of the chair for the successor of Peter, the successor of the first Pope who sat in that chair, to me that is very, very symbolic, a very beautiful event, very moving. Surely for us, those who participate, the faithful have been invited, so stay tuned for that.
Also, I believe that's an event that Raymond Arroyo will be actually anchoring, so we'll see Ray from Rome shortly. Another question, our viewers have been pleased to see those press conferences with Father Lombardi and also some of the ones from the North American College. Now, it's my understanding that the American Cardinals have canceled those North American pressers. Any info on that?
Actually, to be very precise, just 2 lines from Sister Marianne Walsh, who heads the Communications and Media Department of the USCCB, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. She issued this statement. She said, concern was expressed in the general congregation about leaks of confidential proceedings reported in Italian newspapers. And she said, as a precaution, the Cardinals, the American Cardinals, have agreed not to do interviews. So they are erring, if you want to call it that, on the side of precaution and reverence for the respect and the inner workings of a congregation.
Right, faithful sons of the church, that's what we all have to be, and daughters, and so much information has been brought forward in these last few days thanks to your Rome Dispatch, bridging from the resignation now as we ramp up the rest of our coverage. Thank you so much, Joan Lewis. Great to see you, my friend. Talk to you later.
My pleasure. My joy. God bless.
Thanks, Joan. And that's Joan Lewis, and please stay with us for EWTN's coverage, as she mentioned, of the prayer for the church on the occasion of the General Congregations of the College of Cardinals. That's the Vespers, which will be coming up in about a half an hour or so, 25 minutes or so, about 5 minutes before 11 a.m. Eastern. And EWTN, of course, will take you to St. Peter's Basilica for this time of prayer as the College of Cardinals continues their preparation to begin the conclave. And that, as I mentioned, will be hosted by Raymond Arroyo from Rome. And later today, of course, you can catch an encore presentation of the program, Rome Dispatch with Joan Lewis, with Monsignor Tai, and other special programming. Just go to our EWTN.com website. Check our program schedule in your area and time zone, and we'll continue to bring you Rome Dispatch with Joan Lewis, at least the program later today, and special programs upcoming. Also tonight, very special, be sure to watch a Rome edition of EWTN Live with Father Mitch. He's going to be here, but our guests will be Raymond Arroyo, and I believe Father Dominic is going to show up as well, so that should be something for you to look forward to. That's tonight, of course, at its normal time, 8 p.m. Also, a special edition of Rome editions, those are, of The World Over Live. That's coming up on Thursday, and Life on the Rock, a special 90-minute edition, I believe, with Father Mark, who is in Rome. And then on Friday, our coverage really expands with more daily live programming from Vatican City. Now, Friday, beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern, EWTN's Vatican Daily with Colleen Carroll Campbell will premiere, offering in-depth analysis and perspective on the day's events. And then at 2 p.m. Eastern, the one and only Raymond Arroyo and his guest panel of experts bring you all that's happening in the Eternal City with Live from the Vatican. And don't forget radio. Look for Tom Price is hosting our daily program, EWTN Radio Live from the Eternal City. And of course, you can make EWTN your everywhere source for the latest interregnum and conclave news available. Just follow us on Twitter. Just hit hashtag EWTN from Rome. That's one word. And that's how you do those Twitter things. Plus, check out our breaking news and commentary that's available at the National Catholic Register's website, ncregister.com. And of course, whether it's TV, radio, streaming on the web with EWTN.com, Roku, or iHeartRadio, or YouTube, or your ability to check us out on Facebook, remember, EWTN is everywhere. And just in time for the interregnum ourselves and the conclave, we have our free EWTN app as well. You can watch us on your iPad or iPhone, and our Android version is coming soon. Don't forget, all of this takes a lot of effort, a lot of people working behind the scenes, so keep us between your gas and electric bill, as Mother would say. And just a reminder, one more time, EWTN Live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern with Father Mitch. Now stay tuned for Solemn Vespers from St. Peter's Basilica, coming up in about 25 minutes or so. I'm Doug Keck. Stay with us through the interregnum and the conclave.